Midway through 2019, we have new information on 4 of our investigations dating to last summer. They are developments that in several cases resulted directly because of our stories. We begin in Foster.
The owners of a farm who have been unable to secure approval from the Department of Health for a commercial well on their property have a new ally. The retired chief of the agency's Drinking Water Quality Division, who wrote the state regulations. John Hagopian contacted the Hummel Report after our investigation last month, saying he was disturbed by the process we outlined in our story. John Restivo and Aidan Mott, who owned Legends Creek Farm, need a public water supply to expand their business, which includes a kitchen in a newly constructed barn on the property. The department, in a process that dragged on for months, denied the application, citing a decades-old junkyard next door as a potential source of pollution if they were to drill a well. The presence of the junkyard, it determined, was reason enough for the denial, even though the department had no proof of contamination. An engineer the owners hired gave a detailed analysis that he says showed the contamination would run away from the proposed well and not toward it. The owners are appealing the decision and have hired Hagopian as a consultant. He drafted a 4-page paper in support, confirming what Restivo, an attorney, had argued all along. The department's denial cited no specific section of the regulations that would prohibit the well they are proposing to drill. Quote, I found no violation of the current Rhode Island public drinking water regulations. Further, there is no scientific reason which would justify denying the application considering what is known at the time. Hagopian suggested what Restivo and Mott had offered to do early in the process: drill a well and monitor the water quality regularly. The department denied that request. Restivo and Mott have already spent $150,000, including engineering costs and the construction of a 1,600-square-foot barn to house the kitchen, processing center, and a gift shop for products they make on the farm, such as soap, lotion, and honey.
Last summer, we introduced you to some residents in Coventry who were fighting to keep a truck repair business next door from intruding on their neighborhood. And despite a judge's decision to do just that, nothing has happened.
Our investigation showed that 2 years after the town of Coventry took the business to court, the case still had no resolution. A Superior Court judge issued a decision a month after our report ordering Ferrara Mechanical Services at 225 Hopkins Hill Road to restore a vegetative buffer it had cut down, and not to park any trucks in the front of the property adjacent to the neighbors' homes. But the owners have ignored the order. Kathy Thoreau, whose backyard abuts the company's driveway at the front of the property, says nothing has changed and that Ferrara continues to park idling trucks, contrary to the judge's order. In a 22-page decision issued September 21st, the judge ruled that the business had a legal non-conforming use, as it had started long before zoning laws took effect. But, she added, the buffer of trees and vegetation that Ferrara took down had to be replaced. Judge Susan McGurl wrote in her decision, quote, no heavy-duty vehicles, trucks, or trailers may be parked or placed in front of the property along the Helen Avenue fence line toward Hopkins Hill Road. Town Solicitor David D'Agostino tells the Hummel Report that the judge's decision has, in his opinion, some misstatement of facts, and he has been working with the court and Ferrara's counsel to get it amended before appealing. But that process has lasted nearly a year with no end in sight. Thoreau continues to take pictures of the trucks next to her property. On June 21st, she sent an email to D'Agostino. Quote, I am sick to death of FMS. I have a Warwick Tree Service here trimming trees in my yard, and Ferrara is out there talking with them and telling me to go back in my house. This is over the top, and I want his illegal business addressed by the town and the court's decision implemented.
The publicity surrounding 911 fees and a personal pitch to Speaker Mattiello from a North Providence woman has finally resulted in those surcharges being placed in a restricted account.
The result came when the House released its budget 2 weeks ago. The House Finance Committee approved reducing the monthly surcharge for landlines and wireless phone lines from $1 to 50 cents and putting the revenue in a restricted account. However, it also maintains a separate surcharge of 50 cents for landlines and 75 cents for cell phones, called the Emergency Services and First Responder Surcharge. That portion will go into the general fund, and it means no reduction for consumers for the amount they are currently paying on their phone bills. The state collects nearly $18 million annually in surcharges. Robin Giacomini, who has been pushing for reform for more than a year, said she was pleased by the change, which would, quote, advance Rhode Island toward conformity with federal law. Giacomini finally secured a meeting with the Speaker last month. It is unclear whether the change will satisfy the Federal Communications Commission, which has threatened to withhold federal funding for 911 upgrades from states like Rhode Island that have diverted their 911 fees for other purposes. Commissioner Michael O'Reilly, in a statement, tells the Hummel Report, quote, it seems like a step in the right direction. To the extent that this new plan fully remedies past abuses and guards against misappropriating 911 fees, that's real progress. However, I still need to understand how the separate Public Safety First Response Fund is to be structured and administered to determine whether this new plan goes far enough in protecting 911 fees from diversion.
A leading critic of staffing cuts last fall at the Block Island State Airport now has glowing reviews for a company that's been brought in to bolster flight services just as the busy summer season gets underway.
Henry DuPont, a former town councilman and veteran pilot, said the 68-year-old airport was compromised by the departure of 2 longtime employees at the end of September with no formal notification to local officials.
All we're asking for is exactly what is being offered at the other airports. If we're part of a state airport system, we should have the same services as that's being offered at the other airports.
3 weeks after our investigation in February revealed potential safety issues because of the staffing cutbacks, the Rhode Island Airport Corporation reached a deal to bring back services provided by a company that was assigned to the island last summer. DuPont called the service by Flight Level Aviation, quote, fabulous, as good as it's ever been, adding that the facility is now staffed from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 7 days a week. While DuPont is pleased with the day-to-day service, he has turned his attention to what he says are millions of dollars in cuts for improvements to the facility. He says the airport corporation has pledged $4.3 million for several years to go toward a ramp expansion program, but never funded it and has now dropped it from next year's budget. He is working with the town and state legislative delegation to get the funding restored.
And if you have a story idea or tip that you want to pass along to me, email me directly and confidentially at jim@hummelreport.org.